Hello. As we know, 2 days ago I posted my own Will Solace plague thing. So I don't know how to give credit to the author, but this is the homepage, the one I'm reading. It's like one of my favorites of all time. So I'll start from the beginning. 3, 2, 1. When he was 11 years old, Will Solace killed his mother. Okay, don't turn tail and run yet. It's not like Will woke up one morning, rolled out of bed, slipped on his flannel musician's instrument, patterned PJs, and shuffled down the kitchen, rubbing his bleary eyes, and knew. It's not like his mother ruffled his dirty blonde hair, beaming down at her son, and Will smiled back with, "Today's the day she'll fall ill." It's not like he even had a chance to thank her for what she'd done for him. Will was well behaved, but still quite a handful. He was an only child living with a single mother. Will often asked about the whereabouts of his father. Who is he? Who was he? What did he look like? What did he do for a living? Was he kind? Obviously not, if he left mom during pregnancy, Will presumed. Will's mother had pale skin, long, straight, Tresses, treacherous. No, tresses, of brunette hair that fell to her shoulder blades. She had the most beautiful almond-shaped hazel and green eyes with a beaming straight smile. When Will climbed onto the step stool and peeked in the mirror, he saw little to no resemblance to her. He looked at himself and saw a tan-skinned boy grinning back. He had dirty blonde hair, wild and wavy, that fell just below his brow. His eyes were fairly angled, certainly nothing like his mother's. They were bright blue, the color of the sky on a clear spring morning. Will squinted. He could see small flecks of golden sprinkled dappled in the blue, like sunlight pouring through a shallow ocean. Freckles splashed across his cheeks, which seemed to show up more in the sunlight. He could hardly see them in the synthesized light of his mother's apartment. When he smiled, he didn't smile with his eyes the same way his mother did. His teeth weren't perfectly straight either. Will Solace looked nothing like his mother. It made Will even more curious to ask about his father. But he learned to not ask. It was a sore subject for Will's single mother. Miss Solace was a tad out of the ordinary. She was always up at the crack of dawn in the fact. Sometimes she would throw all the apartment windows open and inhale the fresh morning air. "Good morning, dear," would catch her saying from time to time. Then she would just stand there with one shoulder against the windowsill, arms crossed and eyes beaming at the horizon while misty ocean air billowed inside the apartment. If Will questioned who she was talking to, then his mother would quickly change the subject. "Just greeting the new day," she would say. During his childhood, Will found it difficult to find friends. He wasn't interested in sports like all the other boys seemed to be. While they were kicking around a soccer ball or passing footballs, Will was sitting under a tree writing poetry. His ADHD and dyslexia made it difficult to concentrate in class, so he often wrote couplets on the side of his paper instead. He only had one friend at school, Cole. Cole was a strange kid, so maybe that's why him and Will got along so easily. Cole had curly ginger hair and blue eyes. He always wore different hats and baggy jeans year-round. He said he wore the jeans to hide a rash, but never let Will look at it. Cole's laugh was unlike anything Will had ever heard in his life, loud and bleating. Will teased him for sounding like a goat. Cole didn't seem to think it was very funny. He liked playing reed pipe in his spare time. He had an uncanny ability of munching on Will's recyclables. Though they never hung out after school. Only when Though they never hung out after school, only when Will's mother wasn't there. Will found it strange, a kid with no cell phone to contact him, but Cole just told Will that their family was too poor to afford one. As for Will's schoolwork, Miss Solace wasn't too strict. She deemed it more important to play music, even though he didn't like it very much, as encouraged his poetry writing, no matter how bad it was. When his mother asked to read his writing, Will felt ashamed of his awful poetry. He handed it to her slowly, fearing her feedback. She would just read the paper, smile, and then say something about how his father was a lovely poet too, just like he was. Dad must have been an awful poet, Will thought bitterly. They sung together sometimes whenever a song would come out that they recognized on the radio. His mother would crank up the radio so they could sing along without a care in the world. They lived close to the ocean, so she would often drive with Will on the road that overlooked the seas. In the summer, his mom would take him to the beach to teach him how to surf. It was a strange passion Will had. It was one of his mother's seemed surprised by, but when Will asked to learn, she encouraged him greatly. He was only 11, but still had much to learn. He could stay afloat on waves as small as time at least. Time now, at least. She was good to Will. She did the best she could to provide for him. Will loved her with all his heart. She was the only family he'd ever known. She didn't intend to lose her so suddenly. He didn't choose to cause the death of his own mother. A 17-year-old Will Solace slumped on the steps in front of the Apollo cabin. He absent-mindedly wrapped a spare bandage scrap around his hand. He was 17 years old, a full-time medic at Camp Half-Blood, though he didn't feel like doing anything today. His mind has been wandering a lot to the past recently. It was troubling him. Will got extremely lonely sometimes. Sure, he had siblings. Lots of them. He had friends, kind of. But he still thought about his mother a lot. Will knew that other demigods had lost their loved ones, though that didn't make him miss his mother any less. It had been almost 7 years since he'd last seen her. The guilt that clung to his shoulder that never subsided. Will had worked on his medical skills ever since he'd arrived at Camp Half-Blood, yet he still looked at his hands that were foreign objects. He looked at the mirror and saw a monster frowning back. Will now knew why he looked nothing like his mother. He was a perfect replica of his father. Golden, wavy hair, blue eyes, the color of the sky, prominent freckles, blotched dark against his cheeks from the sunlight. His face was angled, his eyes were sharp, though while his siblings inherited Paul's most beloved talents, archery, poetry, writing, and singing, Will was lucky enough to permanently inherit one of the powers that Apollo was infamous for: plague. Sure, he had some healing talent somewhere deep inside. What haunted him the most was the idea of another plague occurrence. Will had the power to cast upon plague anyone he chose. Some demigods may see it as a gift before battle, but Will saw it as the ultimate curse. It may have helped to defeat monsters, but Will had never experimented with it. He forbid himself to ever use or talk about it ever again after the incident that happened when he was young. The incident with his mother, which was the first and last time Will ever allowed himself to lose control. A child of Apollo, a healing god, should not have powers associated with death. It wasn't fair. Will had never told any about his past or knew about his curse. None of his siblings knew. Not even Chiron was aware. As far as Will knew, he probably wouldn't be allowed in the infirmary anymore if he knew he was dangerous. He would be shunned from camp. Will assumed that Apollo knew very little of Will's powers, though Apollo had never personally come to teach Will how to suppress them. Will had learned that all on his own. For all his siblings knew, Will just had the healing powers. Unusually healing powers. In truth, his healing powers were nothing out of the ordinary. He just worked on his healing extra hard, so in hopes it would counteract his secret ability to plague others. Will vowed that he became the greatest healer around, so anyone felt ill by his hand, again, he would be able to heal them. 5 years ago, Will had no idea how to heal his mother. He had no idea the destruction he could cause. Will was 11 years old. He and his mother had gotten into their first fight. His mother was trying to break the news of sending Will into a year-round camp. Will retracted with his mouth first. As usual, he didn't understand at the time. Will's mother was trying to break the news to him that he was a demigod. He was unaware that monsters were beginning to sense him even at his young age, and that by moving to camp, it would also keep his mother safe. Instead, Will was hurt, thinking about his mother was trying to get rid of him. That's when he lost control. Will was so stupid to lose control over such a simple matter. He had no ideas of the powers that had been growing stronger. He just knew who he was. Never mind. He had no idea how to reverse what he'd done to her. They fought that fateful morning, and Will's mother was going to be dead by nightfall. Miss Solace wasn't angry as she laid there dying. She had always been a bit out of the ordinary. She had an unnerving sense of understanding in her fading hazel eyes, as soon as she knew it was bound to happen sooner or later. "I should have told you about this earlier," she croaked. She lay sickly on the apartment couch, face to face with a sickly shade of gray. Her trembling fingers clutched under dusty, crumpled paper and strange looking coins. 11-year-old Will Solace was in hysterics. He kneeled down on the ground next to the couch, clutching her one free hand with his arm, wiping a stream of tears with the other. "Mom, what did I do?" "Hush, baby," his mother whispered. "It's my fault, not yours. I should have knew this day would come. I just didn't know it would come so soon." She took a ragged breath. "The camp. Here's a map to camp." "You're still talking about that stupid camp?" Will shouted sadly, voice cracking. "Camp Half-Blood. You'll be safe there." "Half-Blood? What?" Will shrieked. "Mom, I'm not leaving you. You promised." "Son, listen to me." Will's mother spoke firmly as she could through her ragged breaths. She didn't have much time left. She needed to give her son the truth. She should have given him a long time ago. Will's eyes widened. He knew his mother lived long enough to know when to shut his mouth. "Your father was not of this world," she whispered. In normal circumstances, Will would have scoffed. But now wasn't the time to compliment his dumb father, who he still never met. Yet he was curious. Will's mother never spoke of him. "Your father is a god," she wheezed. "The bedtime stories I would tell you, the myths, the legends, they are all real." Will felt his world turn upside down as everything clicked unhinged at the same time. "What?" He summoned it up. Will trusted his mother with his life. She had never told a lie to him. But that was absurd, despite her sickness, though she didn't look delirious. "He will guide you there safely. Follow the light, baby." Her hands shaking began to subside, which wasn't comforting for Will. She handed him a map and gold coins. Will ripped the map open to study the dirty parchment. There are 2 circles. One was where he lived, and the other was the supposedly camp where he was supposed to be. "I told Cole to wait outside for you. He will guide you in the right direction."